All right. Hello, and welcome to today's video where we're going to be talking about finding spirituality. And this is a topic that is obviously super near and dear to my heart because in our world today there is so much fake spirituality. And I will get into in this video what I define as being fake spirituality and real spirituality. And I also want to talk about just what it means to actually live a spiritual life and why it's not an image and why there isn't a specific, like, this is what it looks like to be a spiritual person, but rather it's a feeling. Okay, so if TL didn't too long didn't listen, TLDL, um, that's the point. Okay, spirituality is a lived, it is a felt thing. And it's not about how it looks. It's not about what it looks like on the surface. It's not about necessarily the practices we practice or the clothes we wear or the accessories we have or any of these things. And in fact, a lot of the time, those things can actually be big distractions from real spirituality, real connection, and what's actually going to fulfill you. And the next thing, the other really important thing that we're going to talk about today is that a lot of the time, finding real spirituality comes from desperation. And I think that that is something that needs to be spoken to because for a lot of us, finding spirituality comes because we have gone through or are going through something very challenging, and the normal things of life are not cutting it in terms of supporting us, in terms of helping us through. And I want to speak to that because that kind of spirituality can be very powerful and very real, and it can be a very real entry point into a true connection. But it can also be where we get very easily manipulated. And so we want to be very careful that if we are in that place, if we are in that space, that we are aware that we're in that space and that we are able to move through that with discernment and having our walls up a little bit in a healthy and safe way, because we don't want to be taken advantage of and we don't want to be led down a path that isn't real. Okay, so this is the other big thing, is that uh, I am speaking from a place of being someone who, I don't like things to be a concept. I don't like ideas. I don't like theories for the sake of a theory or the sake of a concept or the sake of an idea, to feel like I know something or to feel like I'm getting the right answers from somebody. Because in my life and in my experience, I want things that actually work in real life. Okay? So this has been part of when a lot of people ask me, like, how do you know what you know? Well, I come from a history and a background of extreme suffering and being in pain a lot of the time and having a lot of not so great things happening to me in my childhood and in my adulthood. And theory just didn't cut it, right? Like, I needed something that was real and I needed it to actually work and I needed things to actually do stuff because I was in a desperate place and I was in a lot of pain and suffering and all of these things. So, and also being autistic, I think obviously lends itself to that as well. And like I say, I'm just being the kind of person that if it doesn't hold up in reality, I'm not very interested in it, and I am very keen to let things go that don't hold up in real reality. So this is part of why I think I have personally managed to escape a lot of dogma and a lot of stuff that I could have gotten into in the health, wellness, spirituality, personal growth, help world, being so vulnerable. Because yeah, if it doesn't actually work in real life, I'm like, meh, no thanks. And I'm willing to drop things versus needing a theory to feel like I know something and to hold on to that, right? So this is the first thing I want to say about finding true spirituality is you need to be in a place where you are more concerned with results and outcomes than you are with the comfort that can come from believing you have answers or from having a theory that makes logical sense or that makes sense to you in this moment or that was presented to you by somebody that you respect or right? There is massive comfort in a lot of what I would call fake spirituality because it offers us answers. It gives us a rule book. It gives us something that makes us feel like when life is out of control, when we don't know what's going on, when we don't have the answers, it's okay. Just go to the rule book. Just go and follow the doctrine, follow the teacher, listen to what the person says, and you will be okay. And we, of course, find that comforting as human beings. We love the idea that we can find it and that it will be, now we don't have to think anymore, right? Now we don't have to figure things out as we go. We have the rule book. We know what we're supposed to be doing. We know what we're supposed to be saying. We have the rituals. We have the prayers. We have the whatever we have. And we do this in all areas of life, right? As humans, we look for this kind of comfort everywhere. We look for it in diets. We look for it in our relationships. We look for it in, this is why we follow gurus. This is why social media pop psychology is so popular and gets people so rich and so influential. Because if you can give people a feeling or a sense that, number one, they're being seen and heard and validated in their struggle, right? You can connect with them you can connect with them on the level of their pain. And you can make them feel like, I see your pain, I understand your pain, I've been in your pain too. And then you can give them and here's the answer. Here's the answer that works for all of us. Here's the answer that works every time. And if you just follow this simple program, this diet, this way of relating, this way of manifesting stuff, this way of thinking, this way of doing stuff, this way of communicating, whatever it is, that from now on you'll get what you want. You'll get out of pain, you'll get the thing that you want, and it's the secret that you just apply every time. And a lot of the time, this is what religion turns into, right? So it's not to say, I'm not here to say that any religion is wrong or that any religion is fake spirituality or any spiritual path is fake or wrong in and of itself or in and of its teachings. What I am here to say is that when we, from our consciousness place, take spiritual teachings and look at them like a dead thing, like a dead object, right? Like we look at it like this is the rule book and I'm just going to do this and I'm just going to follow this and it's just this. And if I just do all the right things, if I perform properly, I'm going to get the results that I want. It's probably not real spirituality. Because real spirituality, you're going to experience for yourself, is a living, breathing, ever transforming experience, relationship, dynamic happening that will be continually unfolding for the rest of your life. Real, true spirituality isn't a rule book to follow. It's not a set of dictates that we perform to try to just get what we want, or to get out of pain, or to be good, or to feel like we have the answers. That's not spirituality. Okay? That's what the world has turned spirituality into. And this is why so many of us feel so empty. Because without that living, breathing, relational, it's not necessarily a place you lay your head at night experience. It can be comforting, and it can give us that feeling of security for a while, but when it stops working, which it will, we then have to go into dogmatism in order to keep it up, right? We have to start denying reality and all the places it's not working and all the places the rule book isn't giving us the results that we want. We have to go into a place of coping and pretending that things are the way that they aren't. And oftentimes, when this happens, rather than being able to say, okay, this thing just isn't working, it's not delivering on the results that it said it was going to, we are trained in a lot of religion to shame and blame and guilt ourselves, to blame ourselves, to say we're not doing it right, we're not doing it enough, we're not holy enough, it's because we're fallen, it's because we're sinful, it's because we're undeserving that it's not working. Instead of being able to say, no, if the thing worked, it would work. If I'm having to make a whole bunch of excuses for it, if I'm having to deny reality, if I'm having to go through all of these mental gymnastics to make reality fit my model, and if I'm having to go into shame, blame, and guilt and believing that I am shitty, and this is the reason it's not working, it's probably not it. And we're going to notice that a lot of religion is heavily based in shame, blame, and guilt. It's heavily based in, if you're not getting good results, it's either because you're suffering for the cause, which is what is supposed to happen when you're truly living a spiritual life, which I have a different perspective on, which we can talk about later. Or it's you're doing it wrong. Or there's something wrong with you that is the reason why you are suffering. It's not that the teaching doesn't work. It's not that the theory is wrong. It's that you're broken. And that, to me, is the biggest red flag on the path. Okay? If any spiritual path is telling you that there are bad, broken, shameful, horrible parts of you, and that those parts are the things that are the reason why you're not getting what you want, you're in pain, you're suffering, the thing isn't working, red flag. Okay? And this happens in spirituality just as much as it happens in religion. Instead of being able to question the method, we are trained to shame, blame, guilt, and question ourselves. And that is where most of us get taken off the path of true spirituality. Because true spirituality does not center around this idea that you are shameful, that there is something wrong with you, that you are broken, that you are fallen, that you need fixing. And that is clearly a very controversial take in our world today, where our major religions and our most popular world religions are based on exactly the opposite of that, right? Most of our religions are based on the idea that humans are inherently flawed, that humans are inherently broken, that we are sinful, that we are all of these horrible things. And this is why we're being punished. This is why we don't get good results. This is why we suffer. And that spirituality is the act of repentance, essentially. And it's the act of trying to purify yourself. It's the act of trying to get rid of parts of yourself. It's the act of learning to follow the rules and to abdicate your own feelings and your personal responsibility and your, like I say, living, breathing, moment-to-moment experience of actual reality. So it brings comfort because it gives us rules to follow, and it makes us feel like we have the answer all the time. But it requires that we sacrifice feeling worthy or feeling good enough or feeling like we're not perpetually broken and trying to fix ourselves in order to follow it. And to me, this is why most people don't have a spiritual connection. Because in my experience, and in the experience of anyone I know who has like a lived sense of a connection to something, the connection to something is absolutely the opposite of that. When we have true spiritual revelation, when we have a true spiritual experience, there's going to be a recognition of your innocence, of your inherent worthiness, of your inherent purity, of your inherent value. And not just yours, but that of everyone. Okay? It's not just going to be that you realize that you're not a piece of shit. You're going to realize that everyone is not a piece of shit. That everyone is just doing the best they can with what we've been through and what we understand. And you'll start to see that it's not that humanity is evil. It's not that you are evil. It's not that you're fallen or broken or that there's something wrong with you. It's that we're very much operating from a low level of awareness. Like that's where all of this chaos on the planet is coming from. Is that humans, generally speaking, have a low level of awareness. We have a low level of consciousness compared to how complex the world we live in is. And that's the cause of all the chaos. Right? A true spiritual connection is going to help you recognize ignorance where we once saw malice. Does this make sense so far? Everyone following? Okay. A true spiritual connection is not going to be founded on the idea that you are sinful, broken, shameful, in need of fixing or saving. A true spiritual connection will never feel like shame, blame, or guilt. There may be an experience of awareness around what you're doing and the harm that's coming from that. There may be an experience of conviction in terms of the one-to-one relationship between our actions and the outcomes. There may be an awareness of like, whoa, I totally thought I was doing something productive for myself. I thought I was living in alignment, and Now I can see that this isn't real reality. I was brainwashed. I was living in consensus reality, all of this. Those things will happen. Revelation will happen. Growth will happen. The awareness of where we need to grow will happen in a true spiritual connection. But never from a place of I am fundamentally broken, shameful, bad, wrong, sinful. Always from a place of like, whoa, I did not see it before, and now I am seeing something I wasn't seeing before. It was totally innocent what I was doing. I can see how I got there. It makes sense. And now I'm ready to evolve to something better. That's what true spiritual conviction should feel like. I can see how I got there. I see why I was doing that. I see why I was living that way. And now I'm ready to evolve. I'm ready to grow. I'm ready to shift in a way that will make things better. That's a true spiritual insight. A conviction. Okay. So now from here, let's rewind a little and talk a bit about what I believe we can pursue and we can do to help us find a real, true spiritual connection. Okay? Because I think that, again, a lot of people are looking for this. They're searching for this. They want this. But there's very little real explanation for how to actually establish this connection. And especially in our world today where we are inundated with fake ritual and things that are just for how they look. And in a world where, like I say, the people who find true spirituality tend to be people who don't get up and do what I'm doing, right? Like this talking, this sharing, this whatever. When we find a true spiritual connection, I have found in my experience that for most people, right, it's so personal and it's so close to the heart and close to the chest and close to your experience that it can be really difficult and super vulnerable to talk about. And it can also just feel very, very difficult to communicate because, again, it's a lived experience. It's not a logical, like, I did X, Y, and Z. Like, it's not like a workout plan. It's not like a diet plan where you can just say, like, this is what I did, X, Y, and Z, and this was the outcome. Because, again, for all of us, it's going to be a little bit different. It's going to be your thing that awakens you. And so taking what I'm saying in that context, that's really important, right? That it's not for you to do what I did. It's to pursue what I was pursuing and to do it in a way that matches your circumstances and what matters for you, okay? So for me, right? Developing my spiritual connection where I feel like when I am going through hard things, when I am going through challenges, when I am wanting insight, when I am stuck in my life, when I am overwhelmed and overburdened and overstressed and overtaxed, I feel like I have an inner resource of something greater than myself that is helping me figure things out. To me, this is what a true spiritual connection is. It's, I have access to figuring out the answers. I am not alone. I am not by myself. I am not scrambling. I can figure it out. I can figure out how real reality works. And I feel like I have a connection to something that helps me see the things I wasn't seeing, that helps me do the things I wasn't doing, that gives me awareness that I don't have or couldn't have had or couldn't possibly have known any other way than there's something else there helping me and guiding me. And the proof I have of that is just countless experiences where I've known things I couldn't possibly have known, and I've solved problems most people aren't able to solve, right? Like I had for 35 years a condition that is supposed to kill you. Like when left untreated the way mine was for 35 years, most people die. And I didn't. And I somehow came out the other side not needing a whole bunch of the things that most people who have what I had need. I was not as sick as most people get. And that's just one example, right? Like there are 1.5 million, like Sam, my sister's here, she could tell you. There's like 1.5 million things that I have known that about, like timing of things and timing of visas and that I couldn't have possibly known. And it's because I have this inexplicable connection to something. And the way that I developed that, for me personally, was very much out of desperation and necessity. Okay, so I grew up in a situation where I was chronically ill, like sick all the time, and incredibly bullied and isolated. I didn't have caregivers who were there to love me and support me. I had caregivers that were deeply overwhelmed, didn't know how to be parents, and one of whom demonstrated resentment most of the time towards me, and the other one was just completely absent. I didn't have authority figures telling me that I was good. I was relentlessly bullied. I didn't have a community. I went to church every week and was told that I was a sinner and I was shitty and everything was horrible. And I was incredibly depressed and incredibly anxious and just in a very desperate, lonely situation. And so this, right, for me, fake spirituality didn't work. Like I was Christian for a very long time, and the way that I was raised Christian, and the just pray about it, just fast, just be a good Christian and God will reward you, or you're just being tested, just keep going, just keep putting up with stuff, right? Like nothing was getting better with that mindset, and nothing was getting fixed with that mindset. And I had just a very deep understanding within myself that I can't explain, that was telling me that there was more, like that this wasn't it, that this isn't what it's supposed to be like, right? That I'm supposed to be able to have a connection to something that can help me, figure things out, that can make things better. And it's not supposed to be this big cryptic thing where I just wait for my reality to change, because it became very obvious to me very early that that is not reality. That if we don't take steps, if we don't do things, that, right, there is an order to our universe. This is a cause and effect place. And yes, it is very complicated. And yes, there are things that can happen to us that we can't explain. Miracles, healing, spontaneous remission, stuff like that. It can happen. But generally speaking, we heal and we get better and we grow and things change and improve because we align with how reality works. Like that's what it comes down to. We get the results that we want by understanding reality better. And of course, as a 11-year-old, I couldn't explain to you that that's what it was that I was experiencing. But now I can, right? So there was an understanding within me that the pain I was in was happening for a reason. That I wasn't just broken and shitty and that's why I was in pain. It was, no, there's a reason for this pain. There's a reason this pain is happening, and there has to be something that I can do about it. There has to be something I can do about my physical pain. There has to be something I can do about my life. And in pursuing answers like that, in pursuing answers and never settling for explanations that weren't making things better, that's where I found my connection. Does this make sense? Is this resonating on any level? Just let me know. There was a sense in me that there needed to be empowerment and answers that actually change things. And again, this true spiritual connection helped me see where the flaws in the program were. How I was not broken, shitty, bad, and wrong for how I was responding to life. But rather, if life was causing pain, even if it was how everyone around me does everything, even if it was, this is what I was taught is right, even if it was, this is the rule book, you have to follow these rules, this is the right thing to do, you're bad, wrong, shameful, and sinful if you do something else. There was that part of me that was like, but if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. It's not real. It's not right. That's not true. So I was just as conditioned as everybody else. I grew up with all the same rules, all the same not enough culture, all the same no, you just need to hate yourself, you're broken, you're shameful, you're bad, you're wrong, you're shitty, as everybody else. And I had even more reason to hate myself than anybody else, right? Because I didn't fit in any way. I couldn't make myself do any of the things you're supposed to do. Like, I couldn't make myself good on any level. And that should have equaled me just completely rejecting myself and hating myself and spiraling into religious fanaticism as just like an escape. And I should have been caught in my coping mechanisms forever. And I should have been caught in my self-hate, my self-loathing, my codependent patterns, like all of these things for the rest of my life. That's the trajectory I was on. And instead, I found this connection through just never giving up on the idea that the suffering I was in was not right. It wasn't what I was supposed to do with my life. It wasn't how I was supposed to live. Okay, now I want to talk about another thing. A big thing that can really impact us in terms of finding a true connection to spirituality. And this is one of the things that I think is very true and real. And there's a reason that this is how everyone, there's a reason why these ideas are so popular and why they have been around for so long. Okay? When we intentionally disconnect ourselves from culture, when we intentionally disconnect ourselves from culture and start to give ourselves an experience in real reality, this is where most of us are going to find our spiritual connection. And so what do I mean by disconnecting from culture? This is not necessarily a thing where I'm telling you to stop watching TV or to never be on social media. It's not an outward act. Because we can be not on social media, not watching TV, out in the woods, and completely stuck in culture in our heads. Okay? Right here is where spirituality that is real gets lost. Real, true spirituality gets lost when we live in the mindsets of our culture. The mindsets of our culture are essentially what I consider to be the Antichrist, if you want to put it that way. Like the literal inversion of true reality. That's what our culture is. The mindsets of our culture. The mindsets that lay the foundation for our culture. That there is no such thing as enough. That you are never enough. That you are never making enough money. You are never productive enough. You are never consuming enough things. The things you're consuming are never good enough. You're not popular enough. You're not loved enough. You're not X, Y, and Z enough. This whole idea that you are unfulfilled because you are not enough on some level. Number one. Number two. The idea that we have to compete with one another in order to thrive and survive. That competition, domination, exploitation, being at the top, using people for whatever they can give to you. That is how we find success. That is number two. Number three, that we must be divorced from our feelings and our bodies and our empathy as much as possible. This idea that our emotions are weakness, that our emotional expression is weakness, that our feelings are getting in the way of our logic and just doing what we need to be doing. This invalidation of how we feel. And then the fact that we live in a culture where most people have no connection to their emotional intelligence, to the language their body speaks, to feeling, that we're all living in our heads and denying and rejecting and hating and shaming our feelings and our bodies. And we're afraid of our bodies. We're afraid of food. We're constantly trying to control. Like I was thinking about it last night, like literally from the moment we're conceived, our bodies are being measured. Our body size is being measured. Our body weight is being measured. We are being measured by our bodies. And this is such a divorce from our humanity. So disconnection from community and empathy, disconnection from our feelings, our thoughts, and our emotions, competition all the time, disconnection from enoughness and what it actually means to be fulfilled, disconnection from our humanity, disconnection from nature and what is natural for us, our natural rhythms, our natural cycles, our natural, how we evolved for hundreds of thousands of years. Just like simple things like getting sunlight in our eyes in the morning instead of a phone. Having darkness at night instead of a phone. Eating with seasons. Not working under fluorescent lights, sitting at a desk, staring at a screen all day. for hours and hours and hours, living to working all the time, living to work. Like, these things are driving us away from our humanity. Shame, blame, and guilt. I am not good enough. Disconnection from anything that's natural for us. Disconnection from our feelings and our humanity. This is what makes us vulnerable to having no spiritual connection. This is why we feel disconnected, why we feel alone, why we feel like because we're so divorced from reality. And it is in reality that we find our spiritual connection. It is through our connection to our humanity that we connect to our divinity. So the more of ourselves we are rejecting, the more of ourselves we see as broken, the more of us that we see as not enough, not capable, not worthy of love, the more we are living for the approval of someone outside of ourselves. The more we are living for how things look versus how they feel. This is where we lose our spiritual connection. When we're living for consensus, when we're living for approval from other people, when we're sacrificing ourselves for others, when we're making everything about how others think about us or how others treat us or how we are perceived, when we are desperate for human love and human connection all the time at the expense of reality, we will not have a connection. So like I said, disconnecting from culture is not necessarily just putting your phone down or deleting Instagram from your app stores. Okay? It's a place you're living in your mind. Disconnecting from culture is about starting to accept the things that don't feel good to you as being things that don't feel good to you for a reason. It's about starting to actually let yourself feel and to connect to something that is real and not hypothetical. A real connection to your body, a real connection to other people, a real connection to reality. And a lot of the time, spiritual connection comes from the deep revelation that we are never going to be perfectly loved, understood, accepted, or validated by anybody on this planet. And that we can't keep living our lives where we sacrifice ourselves, we sacrifice what feels right for us so that other people will like us and approve of us and take care of us and do for us what we feel like we can't do for ourselves. That living for that external approval is going to drag us down and drag us away from our feelings and drag us away from our humanity to the point where we won't have a connection. We'll be so interested in what's going on out there that we couldn't possibly be connected to what's going on in here. And a spiritual connection comes from in here. Right? So a lot of people feel like when they go inside, there's no one there. There isn't a me there. There isn't anything to connect with. And what I'm saying is, that's not true. It's that you don't accept or approve of or like or feel safe with what's inside. What's inside isn't who you're expecting. What's inside isn't what you think is good enough or what you've been trained to believe is good enough. what's inside is things that you are rejecting, that you've been trained to reject. And so this is why a lot of the time spiritual connection comes through a period of isolation from others. If it doesn't make us more desperate and more afraid, like a lot of the time we have to face that dark night of the soul of realizing we are going to have to choose ourselves at some point. We can't keep choosing culture. We can't keep living in the hopes that if we just sacrifice ourselves enough or improve enough or explain enough or find a safe enough connection, that we'll finally be safe and loved and secure and given all the things that we want and that we need, right? A huge part of spiritual connection comes from realizing that the life on earth, our external environment, isn't ever going to be perfectly safe and secure. It doesn't exist. Hard things are gonna happen. People are gonna die. People are gonna reject you and let you down. You're gonna go through things that you don't know what to do, and it's gonna be hard, and you're gonna have to figure it out as you go. And when we let go of trying to find security in a world that is constantly changing, we can start to find it in the place that it actually exists, which is in our connection to something that can help us figure it out. Because we are not alone, and we do have access if we are willing to feel and listen to reality, and if we are willing to be in our lives moment by moment, step by step, feeling it out as we go, right? So a big part of this is letting go of the idea that there's a rule book that we can follow, that there is a specific, if I just perform in this way, if I just do this right thing, I will feel good. I will get the love and approval that I've always wanted. People will finally make me secure. I will be set for life. No one will abandon me. We let go of that idea. We understand that it is possible that we are going to be abandoned by literally everyone. It is possible that the other shoe is going to drop all the time. There is no perfect security. And we have to turn around and face that fear and realize that a true spiritual connection helps us know that we can figure it out, that we can get through it, that when those things happen, it isn't the end of the world, because we have something that will help us move through it and figure it out and be connected to reality. And then the next thing is learning to choose your real, true human self instead of choosing culture. Learning to choose your real, true human self instead of culture. And what that requires is, again, learning how to acknowledge your real feelings, learning how to feel your real feelings, learning how to say, this hurts, and it's not because I'm shameful, it's not because I'm broken, it's not because I'm shitty or failing. This hurts because it doesn't work. Okay? A huge part of my experience with growing my spiritual connection, and from anyone else that I've talked to about theirs, it's a constant, slow breakup with consensus reality and how it functions. The people I know who have a true spiritual connection are not following some sort of rule book on how to be a spiritual person. They are for themselves, from where they are starting in their life, slowly deconstructing society and culture. Slowly letting go of things. Slowly allowing the superficial stuff to be cleared away from their life so that there's more room for a connection to something that's real. There's more room for a connection to something that's real because there's less and less clutter and overwhelm and overstimulation from a culture that is constantly grasping for that which is not real, the fake rabbit. We start to let go of the fitting in and the doing what's right and the doing what everyone else is doing and what everyone says is good. Slowly, step by step. Right? So for me, it started with just a lot of different things. Right? You just start to feel in yourself, I don't like doing this. Right? Like for me, I don't drink and party and smoke and do all these things because it just doesn't feel good. It's popular. It would get me superficial love and connection. But I can't do it. It doesn't feel good. I left my religion despite all logic and the fact that it was losing my whole worldview and it was losing my whole community and what I had based my entire life on before that. Like, it came to a point of like, this isn't real, this doesn't work, I don't know what I'm going to replace it with, but I have to let it go. I know a lot of other people, it's like they spend a bunch of time outside of the city and in nature. And as cliche as that sounds, it's like a whole bunch of things they used to think they had to value and they had to chase and they had to do to be approved of fall away. And it's really this important thing. When you let go of needing to be approved of by others, when you let go of the idea that being approved of by others is the thing that's going to make you safe, when you let go of the idea that a connection to other humans is the ultimate thing, right? So it's not to say that we don't need connection ever. It's not to say that we don't have people in our lives that we rely on. It's not to say that, humans don't matter and you just need to be fully self-sufficient in yourself, whatever. But it is to say that we can't sacrifice. We cannot sacrifice the truth for that stuff. Truth has to come first. Alignment with what you know feels good and is the next thing on your path has to come first. I have sacrificed a gabillion relationships with humans to be in alignment. And I wouldn't go back and change that for anything. I have disappointed so many people. I have let go of opportunities to make a lot of money, to be popular, to do all of these things because it did not feel right. It didn't feel good. I could not sacrifice reality and my connection to reality for approval and what was deemed worthy and right and acceptable by society. It's breaking up with culture slowly so that we can find our connection to what's real slowly over time. That helps us establish our real spiritual connection. Approval of humans is never going to do it. Fitting into culture is never going to satisfy you. Real reality is the thing that's going to satisfy you. And real reality is going to show you where culture and all the things that we're doing are painful. And it's not you that's broken. You feel the pain for a reason. So now how can you start to untangle yourself from it slowly? And it will make you weird, and it will make you different. And that's a good thing. Because culture is the anti-spiritual path. Approval of humans is the anti-spiritual path. You will always feel desperate and alone and disconnected so long as you're choosing that over reality. Okay, so that's my take. Agree or disagree. Have your thoughts. If anyone has any questions, I'd love to hear them. But yeah, we can't keep living for culture and expecting to feel spiritually fulfilled. It's just, they are antithetical. They are opposed. They are two different things. And so we slowly let go of culture. That's what this whole self-love path is supposed to be. It connects you back to the reality that there's nothing wrong with you. It connects you back to your feelings. And then from there, it connects you with reality. And that's how we find spiritual connection. That's the secret. All right? Okay. So thank you for being here. Thank you for watching. I hope this was helpful. And yes, always share with me your thoughts. Share with me what you think, what you feel, what your experience is. I would love to hear. And until next time, I will see you later.